Hello, hello. Nostr is part of a long history of people trying to create decentralized social media, including many you've never heard of, and some that perhaps you have. Have you heard of ActivityPub, also called Mastodon? Have you heard of @Proto, also called Bluesky? Or Nostr, also called Nostr? These are the big three. And each of them have their own unique set of strengths and weaknesses. But let's focus on the bigger picture. Wow, those are some big numbers for Bluesky and the Fediverse. But wait, here's the list of top social media websites, and Bluesky is there, combined with ActivityPub and Nostr. So after all of these years, why are we still losing? I heard it's because they're funding us too much. Yep. According to Eggman98 in the comments section, if they would just cut funding, the sheer desperation would create an innovation like no other. Or perhaps the reason we're losing is because nobody cares. Perhaps nobody cares. That would certainly explain their behavior when they jump ship from centralized platforms over hot button issues, only to come crawling back once the dust settles. Another reason people say that we're losing is because of our sign-up form, because on Nostr, you have to use private keys. But in my opinion, Facebook's sign-up form has got to be one of the worst in the world today, and yet they're still the top social media website. I think Nostr's sign-up form is actually its superpower, because our biggest competitor is actually not Twitter, it's email. Email, which is supposed to be decentralized, in practice is basically just controlled by Google, because all of these sites here, most people are just signing in with their Gmail account. But that's okay, because Google is good, right? Now, you may be wondering, why not just re-decentralize email? Well, the fact is that many have tried, but email is old. Email was created before the World Wide Web, and it was not designed with user freedom in mind. But how will Nostr beat email? With robots. As long as they don't kill us first, we will harness the power of AI to create things on Nostr that people actually find useful. Nostr is perfectly suited for it. By the way, I created bridges between Nostr and the other decentralized protocols, so I know a thing or two about how they work, and I can tell you that they're not going to benefit from AI like we will, because their integrations are hard and ours are easy. In fact, the robots are already doing it. Here's Chorus, a Nostr community website created with AI in 4 days. Here is a Scrabble game created in 1 prompt to AI. Here is a Nostr audio experiment where people can record their voices and be heard all around the world. All of these and more were created with MKStack, an AI-driven template I created for my wife, MK, after I was inspired by her work on Bookster. Here's a site like Bookster, created in 1 prompt to MKStack. The bigger picture is my new project called Stacks. The idea behind Stacks is that developers will create a stack, and then community leaders will use the stack to create custom, brand new community platforms tailored to their community. All you need is to dream it, believe it, and build it. AI is the biggest opportunity that we've had since the internet itself, and it's our biggest chance ever to make people care. All we need is you. Thank you very much.
Happy Bitcoin Friday, freaks. It's your host, Odell here for another Citadel Dispatch, the interactive live show focused on actionable Bitcoin and freedom tech discussion. As always, Dispatch is funded purely by our audience with Bitcoin donations. Thank you, freaks, for supporting the show and keeping it ads and sponsor free. Our largest zap on podcasting 2.0 apps last week, or I guess earlier this week, was from BTC Shelling Point, Ride or Die Freak. He sent 2,100 sats and said, awesome rip. You can join him and other people using the Fountain Podcast wallet, Fountain Podcast app, to zap and comment on every show using Nostr. Also, of course, you can join us in our interactive live chat that gets streamed into the broadcast and is unmoderated, unedited. You are one of the hosts alongside me. That is also Nostr enabled. You can find all the links at citadeldispatch.com. I see we already have Dr. Nikamoto in the chat who zapped 1,000 sats. Anyway, freaks, I have a great show lined up for us today. It's actually the man who was in the intro clip, which is rare for me to do, but I just thought his presentation was a fantastic way to get started on today's show. We have good friend Alex Gleason here, who has a history building out Truth Social and is now focused on Nostr AI and Bitcoin. How's it going, Alex?
Hello. Happy to be here. Happy Friday the 13th.
Yes, I thought it was a perfect day to have you on the show.
Yep. I normally don't go outside. Today I was planning to, but now I'm a little bit concerned.
when I invited Alex on and he realized it was Friday the 13th, he sent me a shocked face emoji, and I knew it was perfect.
Yep. Good luck, everyone.
Alex, first of all, great presentation in Oslo. I think your presentation style is incredibly unique, and I, for better or for worse, go to a lot of conferences, so I always enjoy watching one of your talks, and this time I got to enjoy it from afar. Before we jump into Nostr, or however people want to pronounce it, I think it's pronounced Nostr.
I'm a Nostr guy myself, but
I know you can't be right about everything. I wanted to. Are you comfortable talking about your Truth Social days at all?
Absolutely.
So Truth Social, how are you involved in Truth Social?
Yeah, so I'd been building stuff on the Fediverse for a long time, many years. And one day I got a call from a guy saying, or an email saying, "Hey, can you help me put Soapbox on top of Mastodon?" Soapbox was the software, open source software I was developing for the Fediverse. And so he wouldn't tell me who he was or why, but I had a call with him, and he was like excited about it. And I was like, "Okay, I'll take a chance here." And then before I knew it, I was on Donald Trump's social media team building the new website for Donald Trump after he was banned off of Twitter. And like, it took me so long to accept that this was actually real, because we were like, like hiding around in secret. We weren't allowed to tell people. Like, only our closest family members knew, and even that was like a gray area. And in the meanwhile, I was like flying back and forth to Atlanta and like pushing like TVs up the WeWork stairs to do investor presentations and stuff. And I have fond memories of it. It feels a bit like a dream to me now, because it went through all of the dramas that I think you would expect that an organization like that would go through. Where at first it was full of people that I loved. And then those people kind of got forced out and replaced with different people who had a different vision, mainly around advertising that they wanted to push into Truth Social. And so once I realized that, I wasn't gonna be able to do this sort of decentralized thing that I thought would actually fix that fundamental problem there, then I had to leave and go on something else. And that's when I jumped ship to Nostr. Because to me, like I wanted to solve the actual issue that arise from Donald Trump being banned off of Twitter, and I felt like they weren't actually interested in solving it. They were more interested in just spinning up their own, competitor under the same general rules of centralized platforms.
Yeah, they wanted to be the trusted third party and control the platform.
Exactly.
Monetize it. So you were like actually one of the leads in the build out, right?
Yeah, I was one of the early people there. Because of my experience with Mastodon in the Fediverse, that they had decided to build off of Mastodon early on in the process, and then they brought me on, and I was like the expert on Mastodon basically at that point. So I had a lot of sort of say in the direction of how we would go on the technical side of things, and that led to me becoming the head of engineering at the company. And I was sort of like crossing the stream between teams, building the apps on Android and iOS and on web, and I was also leading the web interface because the web interface on Truth Social now is based on Soapbox, the product that I built on Mastodon. So I was like sort of helping with building out new API endpoints and like connecting the teams on it.
And Soapbox was basically, I mean, how would you describe it? It's like almost like an SDK for building your own Mastodon instances.
Yeah, it was like a version of Mastodon that's fully customizable. Because one thing I didn't like about Mastodon was they're like, oh look, you can spin up all of these different communities for your own like little thing. You can have one in like for your country, you can have one for your sports team, you can have one for your hobbies and interests or whatever. But it's all this very strict Mastodon style template where it's this blue gray color scheme, and it has the elephant, and it always says Mastodon, and you can't change the name Mastodon to say like my website or whatever. And I felt like that was a big missed opportunity. So I basically just made like a version of Mastodon where you can change the colors, you can change the logo, you can change the name. It doesn't say Soapbox anywhere in the UI. And so Truth Social saw that as a good starting point for them since they had already decided to build off of Mastodon on the back end of like us being able to build, the Donald Trump version of Mastodon.
Right. So I mean, since then, it's become the most valuable Mastodon instance of all time. I think, I mean, the stock that owns it, DJT, which is his initials, is worth $5.5 billion. Do you own any DJT stock?
I don't, unfortunately. I don't think that anyone really does that was promised that they would.
Fucked up.
They got cut out of the deal. You're fired. So
Yeah.
it's about what you would expect from a Donald Trump organization,
Yeah. Anyway, okay. Well, thanks for giving us the history lesson there. I think it's fascinating. Before we continue, huge shout out to Mav21, Ride or Die Freak, sent 10,000 sats. Paulie sent 2.1 thousand sats. Thank you guys for supporting the show. I think it's one thing he does deserve a bit of credit for is that he is pretty militant about only posting to Truth Social.
That's true.
I think it was a fascinating. It was a fascinating case study on the current status of social in society, the Elon versus Trump war, where Elon was tweeting on X and Trump was responding on Truth Social, and like a cross-platform war.
Damn, isn't it a shame that they can't be linked together by some sort of protocol? That sucks.
Well, that's what we'll be talking about today. So, I mean, I think an interesting part here is, so let's dive in real quick on what because it's a weird dynamic where it's almost been harder for me to convince someone who has already switched to Mastodon to try out Nostr than someone who has never used Mastodon. Like they have never used a federated protocol. They've only used a completely centralized platform.
That's a good point.
So what made you move? Like, what are the specifics about the differences between, like, what were the failings of Mastodon that you think Nostr fixes or mitigates or improves?
So it's feudal basically on Mastodon. You have like landlords basically, and so you have to kind of buy into this system of being a renter of like apartment complex as a user, and like that's not really freedom to me. And in many cases, that's actually worse, because at least with big centralized, like big tech evil platforms, you kind of know what you're getting yourself into, and probably the people in charge of that aren't going to be coming after you on a personal level. But on Mastodon, like the way it works is you have to choose a server, right? And this is already like a major issue, because it's like the psychology thing of there being too many items on the menu, and that making people not be able to choose. Um, and so you choose, and then once you choose, it's permanent. You're stuck there. And somebody else owns that too. You don't own that. So you're just basically attaching yourself to somebody else's like property. And then your account is just at the whims of that person forever. And there are ways to move your account, but they're really like an afterthought and not deeply integrated into the protocol, and they don't work very well. So
And the
like
key is you lose your social graph in that situation.
exactly, you lose everything, and you need permission to move too.
Yeah.
So like if you're in an adversarial relationship with your landlord, which is very likely in the Mastodon situation, because they're not sending their best. Like the people who are running the Mastodon servers are just like, you would hope that they're like principled like freedom advocates, but they're not. They're like people who are emotional. They're people who are like power tripping. And so you get in these situations where it's like it's damaging to this decentralized mission and future, because people just get such a bad taste in their mouth. They're like, oh, I never want to do this again. Like, honestly, centralized is better. So it sucks. But for the people who don't have that experience, so I will say, if you're running your own Mastodon server, then you're not going to have this issue, because you are fully in control. It's just like most people aren't going to do that. That's
Right.
not going to, the mainstream is never going to be able to do that. Um, so those people are happy. And then for the people who are just fine sort of being beta orbiters of these people who are running the Mastodon servers, then those people are also fine too, because they're just like, yes, daddy, like I want you to be my admin and tell me what I'm allowed and not allowed to do on social media. And that's fine for those people too. But with Nostr, with Nostr, it really gives people full control over their identity online. And that is so important, because like we've seen these issues on Mastodon where like admins will just get fed up and just delete their whole server, and then like thousands of people are just like gone. And that sucks when you invest in something. You've like built up your follower base. You've like posted all of your content to it, and then it's just like someone else can just press a button to delete you off of the internet. So it's not a winning strategy in the long term. And so we need something like Nostr. And I think Bluesky has, is the same issues as Mastodon too. And it's just that they're a little bit of better stewards about it. So people feel comfortable being in this sort of middle ground where they're on a thing like Mastodon, but the admins aren't just like the worst people ever. So, yeah, but I think but now they're facing kind of bigger issues with like governments and stuff pressuring them to do things just like Twitter was. So like I think Nostr is the only actual solution to this problem that we have right now, and we just need to get people to understand that, or just wait, and then something will happen that will cause them to understand it.
I mean, and the other piece too is it's with Mastodon is you're not only it's not you're not only beholden to malicious instance operators, but also like something could happen to like it's very burdensome to run the instance.
Oh yeah.
And I think there was a story where there was like a gay focused instance, and like their domain got cut, and then just everyone got absolutely screwed.
Mastodon, it was like, oh, I don't know if this was the same one, but there was a .af. It was like Mastodon.af or something that was actually like the acronym like as fuck, right? but it's actually AF is owned by Afghanistan, and so like the Taliban-run government in Afghanistan was able to take down that server with like thousands of users on it because they chose the wrong top-level domain provider.
Yeah, that's what it was. It was gay.af, I think was
Yeah, it was something like that.
Yeah, so I mean that's not a scalable situation to be in. That's just it just doesn't make sense. It's fundamentally flawed. And then so let's just really quickly, I mean, you've been one of the first things you started to do was build bridges, right? Because this is something that we hear a lot on people who are joining Nostr for the first time. Let me just see, the most interesting Twitter accounts, or one of the most useful accounts that I find on Nostr is the mirror that you have of Donald Trump's Truth Social. And so you started to try and build bridges, and obviously on closed platforms, they can stop you from building bridges, which just inherently proves that they're flawed.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not actually decentralized or distributed or whatever you want to call it. But so you've been trying to build bridges to Bluesky. I know you got like some of my posts on Bluesky for a bit. I think it's since broken. So you're kind of familiar with how Bluesky works and their ad proto. What are the issues with that? Like, as someone who's like not really familiar with how Bluesky works, except that it just seems like it's flawed from the beginning.
Yeah, so I will say with Mastodon and Bluesky, they're at least incrementally better than the centralized platforms because you can at least get stuff out of it. On the centralized platforms, it's like so you need to register for a developer account, and then we might give you an API key, and then we might charge you money to use that API key. And aside from that path, you're completely out of luck. And also one of the main things that you need to create a bridge is you need the ability to generate infinite accounts on the other side of the bridge, because like we have Nostr users and we want to make them appear on the other side, right? So like on Mastodon, you actually can do that. You can have a server, Nostr.pub, right, that can just have a dynamic route for users.
Yeah, I saw the Graphene account on Mastodon responded to me. I didn't know they could see my responses.
Yeah, they can.
Yeah,
And
that's pretty cool.
And on Bluesky, it's a little bit more challenging because they have this system where they have this centralized server that in theory could be replaced, but in practice is what everything is running through it. I think that their philosophy is kind of like the communist, like Marxist-Leninist idea of the withering away of the state, where like the theory is supposed to be that the Communist Party is going to take control of the state, and then they're going to become the new state. But then they're going to do everything the right way, and then over time, the state is not going to be needed anymore. Um, Unfortunately, we've never seen that actually play out in practice, it seems to be that Bluesky is taking the same approach here, where they're just like, okay, we're just going to take power and take control, and then make everything right, and then the world isn't going to need us anymore. So yeah, so we have bridges. A bridge to Bluesky that is kind of functional. We can get data out. Getting data in is a lot harder because they expose all of their posts publicly. We can get stuff out of it, but in terms of why it's broken right now, it's just because of the cost of hardware and the amount of time that it would take in order to fix it. And so now I have some some resources to be able to fix it, and I just need to put some time into it because it's really complicated the way that they've built things. And on Nostr it's a lot easier. So I also have
you could do all of that, and then they could just block like 99% of users from seeing any posts, right?
Exactly. So I was gonna say it's also like a matter of how much time is it worth spending versus the time I would spend growing Nostr. And I'm kind of a little bit more bullish on the idea of growing Nostr than fighting with trying to make Bluesky work and like begging for their permission at various steps of the way.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense to me. Fuck Bluesky. Anyway, okay, so we did that. Now, I think it would be actually pretty helpful to people just as a thought exercise. If we let's just say we wanted to mirror Elon Musk's X posts to Nostr. Why is that a bad idea? Why, like, how difficult would that be?
I think that it's possible to mirror one, sort of like how I'm mirroring one Truth Social. Truth Social, even though it's based on Mastodon, they've removed all of the sort of federated features of it, so it's also basically like a centralized platform at this point. It's also basically the same issue as X, maybe a little bit less bad, but like I for the same reason I'm not going to mirror all of Truth Social. I think that you can't really do more than a couple of X accounts because you're going to start hitting rate limits. You're going to start uh, like they're going to start detecting your activity and blocking you, and then potentially you're also running into legal issues for like violating the terms of service, and then like God forbid the worst case scenario is you somehow get charged under like the computer whatever law, the one that Aaron Schwartz got hit
Yeah.
with, and they're like accuse you of being a computer hacker accessing unauthorized systems or something. And it's just like, God, like, actually, maybe it's just regular people making the choice every day to continue using this that's the problem. Like, maybe y'all should just stop stop giving these platforms power, and then like and then then the issue would be solved. Like, why do we have to take all of these big risks um when it should just be an act of realizing that it's wrong and then convincing everyone around you to just move on to the thing that's right, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, by the way, is your volume really high on your headphones?
Um,
I hear a
maybe
little bit
you
of,
have an echo.
I hear myself every once in a while.
Here, I'll turn it down a little bit.
Okay. Perfect. I think that's better now.
Cool.
But I presume you can still hear me.
I can hear you. Yeah, you're good.
So I mean, in practice, it would be like we'd have to run a bot that's like manually scraping from the website rather than pulling from an API.
And potentially
Elon's
from
tweets,
multiple IPs too.
right? Because they would see the activity, and then it'd be whack-a-mole. It'd be unreliable, and probably just more trouble than it's worth. I mean, you could
Yeah,
also just always do the manual practice too, where it's just like some dude is sitting there just like reading the web page, typing out, but it's ridiculous. I mean, this is the whole reason Nostr exists, is that
exactly.
the majority of the internet is going behind walled gardens. The first thing Elon did when he bought Twitter was put up a wall and make the wall higher and higher, require logins to view content, lock down the API. And one of the main reasons for this is because they see the data as their product. They see user
Exactly.
posts as their product, and particularly in AI world, it's data that they can train and use in real time. One of the reasons XAI or Grok is so useful to people is because it has basically a fleet of human robots that are just feeding information into their proprietary walled garden that only they can easily access, that the other AIs aren't able to easily access and leverage off of. And Nostr will hopefully fix this if we can scale it up and get more people involved. So anyway, with all that said, I thought your talk was fascinating. You've recently been more focused on this AI intersection. Um, why and why should
Yeah.
why do you care? Why should people care about this?
Yeah, so the story is, for the past like 3 years, I've been trying really hard to make Nostr succeed, and I've been trying to solve really hard problems. Like every day, I'm banging my head against the wall, basically. Just trying to create like the ideal technical solutions to these things, and trying to like plan these like long term of like this can't just work for today. This has to work 10 years from now. And then like 3 months ago, my wife started playing around with AI, and she built a Nostr site in like 4 days called Bookster, and that just blew my fucking mind. I'm like, and you didn't even need me to build that. You just built that like completely on your own, and and I'm like shattered, you know. I'm like having this major existential crisis. Like, oh my god, the world doesn't need Alex Gleason anymore. What am I going to do with my life? And so I'm like, I have to confront this because, like, I want to be useful, and it's honestly scary how fast things have moved in such a short period of time. And so I'm like, okay, AI or die. Like that's it. Like, you know, I feel like we're in this situation now that's kind of like and I'm a little bit less concerned about it now that I've come back to reality. I'm like, okay, everything is fine, everything's gonna be okay. But like, I think it's kind of like the internet was back in the day, where like you have to adopt this thing or like you're out because you're just not going to be able to move as fast as the people who are, because it's just such a world changing, game changing difference. And I think that we can do things that are extremely powerful with it to make Nostr win. And so, and it doesn't have to be so hard anymore. You know, I built one more hard thing. I built stacks and I created MK Stack. And a lot of people have been using it now, and it's been a lot of fun. I've been having more fun lately than I've had in years. And and there's so much we can do with it now that we couldn't do before. Like we had this big dream of Nostr years ago that we're going to integrate Nostr into everything. Like Nostr is going to do the other stuff. Nostr is going to is and it's all going to be linked together. And but it was just hard. And now with AI, we can actually build all that stuff. Like, you know, I remember years ago Jack had mentioned he wants a GitHub on Nostr. And people worked really hard to get out a spec for that, and people worked hard to create these sort of you know, Nostr Git platforms. Uh, and and so using that NIP34 spec, I just was like, hey, build me a NIP34 client to my MK Stack template that I built. And now we have nostrhub.io, and that's a site that I spent about 4 days working on, where you can, on that site, you can create custom NIPs, you can submit your Nostr apps, you can submit repositories. There's a DVM marketplace. There's a NIP72 community built into it. All of this shit is like integrated and deeply linked together. And this is all just a vibe coded app that is fully functional. And like every passing thought or idea that I have at this point, that it, like years ago I'm like, oh no, that's too hard, that sucks, I can't do that. I'm just like, hey, build this thing, and it just builds it and it works. um and I think that, like I said in my speech, Nostr is better suited for this than anything else, because like other people have these tools that they're using similar to this, but they're struggling to get a login button. They really are.
Right.
They're like, you know, build me this website or whatever, and then it's full of mock data, and it looks like it should work, but it doesn't work. And that's because the thing that they're missing is Nostr. Because plugging it into like these legacy Web 2 systems requires a backend, and it requires all this extra work. But Nostr's design is this like weird alien design that sort of switches the roles of front end and back end, where it like wants the front end, it wants smart clients and dumb relays. And the relays are permissionless and publicly accessible without authentication, and you can just generate IDs on the client side, user IDs on the client side with keys. So, like, that's what MK Stack is I've basically taken the Lovable stack and added Nostr to it, and then put a context file in there, and now we have this machine that can just generate and pump out Nostr apps. And this past month, I've been going in there and just refining the context file, adding little snippets of code in there to do things that we want to do, such as upload files to Blossom. So now there's just like a use Blossom hook in there that can be called by the AI. And there's just a little bit of context in the context file telling it how to do it. And so now you can be like, and let me do uploads, and it just works on the first shot. And so the way I've been iterating on this thing on MK Stack is it's this template that's a React ShadCN Vite Tailwind template, and I just be like, build me a site like Twitter on Nostr, and then it does it, and I see what it did wrong, and then whatever it did that I didn't like, I go back into the context file and I say, like uploads, for example, uploading a file. To upload files, use this snippet of code right here, and import this module. And so then I build me a site like Twitter and make it so people can upload files. And then the second time it does it. And so what I'm like, my goal here is that you can write a single prompt and it will build you what you want in the first shot without needing to do any additional like requests for changes. Um, and and uh, and so we started off just doing like existing NIPs, right? Like build a site like Twitter or NIP28. Build me a NIP28 chat applications. These things all work. They work on the first try. And now we're starting to move into the territory of uh, build me something that doesn't yet exist. Build me something that there's not a NIP for. And so when it has to do that, it does a lot of things wrong. It tries to use tags wrong. It queries things wrong. And so I've started to go back in and be like, okay, build me a Nostr platform for the farming community. And so what it wants to do when I say that is it wants there to be a marketplace where people can buy and sell tractors. It wants there to be it wants there to be a feed that shows people weather conditions that are changing over time, and for there to be like a farming community in there. And so I'm kind of just go along with what it wants to do, and I'm just go back into the context file and I'm teaching it. Here's how to write Nostr events the correct way, so that you can actually create a NIP for this. And now when you say build me a Nostr farming community site, it'll go and it'll look at the NIPs and it'll say, okay, I see NIP 15 marketplace and I see a NIP 99 classified. NIP 99 classified looks closer to what I want, but I need to make sure that I T tag it with farming so that we're only getting farming classifieds. And it just does all of that automatically now, and then it creates a nip.md document explaining that it's using NIP 99 with T tags that say farming. And it also has the ability to generate new event kinds and then document those event kinds. And then my goal is that there will be a simple command to also publish your NIP MD to Nostr Hub, so that other people who want to implement that same NIP can just refer to it by its Nostr address and say, implement a Nostr farming website using this NIP that this other person made on their vibe coded farming website.
So if there's not a NIP, it'll create a NIP, so then it'll be easier for other people. I mean, the key here is when you do this stuff on open protocols, it's the lack of permission. You don't need to ask any permission of anybody, and you have Nostr handle the identity, the comms, and the data, and then you have Bitcoin handle the payments, and then boom, you're off to the races without asking permission.
Yep.
So let's just, I guess let's go high level first, and then we'll go deeper. High level, there's some people have been more provocative than others in terms of what this new era of quote unquote vibe coding means. Vitor, who has manually coded Amethyst, one of the largest, most popular Android Nostr apps, has gotten very excited about this, even though he doesn't really seem to be practicing what he preaches yet, but he thinks he's about to be obsoleted by vibe-coded apps. Obviously, like the three largest, I think, maybe the four largest Nostr apps, if you do Damus, Primal, Amethyst, Yakahone, maybe those are the four largest. Maybe they're not. But anyway, none of them are vibe coded. Right. When I look at it from just like a high level, do you think like, I could see how interesting tools could be built very quickly and iterated on very quickly with this type of technology, this type of tool set. I mean, Nostr Hub looks like a fucking legit website. Like it very performant. It works exactly like you would think it would work. But is there a concern there in terms of like long-term maintenance, like actually long-term stable projects versus like kind of just like I'm not trying to be denigrating here, but like hobbyist tools, like just
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like as the project grows, it's for sure gonna just get crushed under its own weight. But that's also kind of the same issue with like the manual code. I call it Discord coding, by the way, because Discord is the opposite of Vibe. So
okay.
the Discord coded apps also have many of the same issues where like as it grows, it starts to get crushed under its own weight. And one of the beautiful things about Nostr is that it really like due to the way identity works, it allows you to build many small like micro apps. And this was something that people were so excited about in the earlier days of Nostr. And I just feel like it didn't really play out that well because it was so hard to do it. It's like, oh, you have these random ideas of all these various different things you want to do, but is it really worth sitting there and taking the time to like code all this stuff out? And most likely it's not going to work very well. But now that we have the ability to vibe code, we can just do all of that, and we can build these like thousands of micro apps that are interconnected, and they just work.
Well, let me put it a different way. That seems incredibly empowering and powerful, and I'm very excited about it. Let me put it a different way. Do you think like there's one thing? I see a random M bump in the comments. Damn, not used to hearing Odell speaking at 1x. Yeah, I've heard that in person a lot. I feel free to come back and listen at 2x later. It's one thing if I'm building like a chess app. I one shot a chess app. You play with people in chess. People don't really have to. There's not like significant technical burden there. There's not significant user expectations. But do you think in 5 years or 6 years that the main Twitter-like app on Nostr, right, or like the almost like the one that is being used by the most people, is that a one-shotted vibe code app, or is that a like a heavily engineered, maintained with still using LLM tools, like you're still using AI tools in the actual development process and the maintenance process, but it involves a team with humans like actually interacting with it on a constant basis and iterating and creating a stable, improving experience?
So I won't try to predict 5 years. Things are changing so much like every week. But today I think that we could build a Twitter app like that. Would it be one shot? No. One shot would get you something that looks really good and gives you a feed and has the right buttons on it, but you're going to have to tell it, make the like button work, make replying work, fix the mobile padding, add this feature, fix that, like add bookmarks, add all these different things. And then it will eventually get to a point where it starts to get kind of weighty. And you might start to see the limitations, but I think that like the new way I'm approaching software development at this point is not to try to go in and Discord code these features into these like vibe coded apps. It's to see what are ways that I can improve my stack so that when I rerun these prompts, it'll produce a better result the second time and it'll do it faster. And some of that does involve going in and manually like taking pieces of code and moving that code into the stack template itself so that it just already has that code in there. And through that sort of software development flow, which to me, this is like it's a completely new software development methodology. Like when things get stale, you may consider just deleting and reviving because like I kind of view it as like every 6 months you just revive the app and like you're improving your stack the whole time and upgrading all of your shit and
But
improving the components in there.
I could see that's powerful, like incredibly powerful, right? Because you don't lose anything in terms of like the actual database that's being used, the social connections, the identities, like that's all separate and permissionless, obviously. But do you think users would be cool with that? I'm just like, and I'm not talking about like technical users, which is basically all we have on Nostr right now.
Users
but I'm
hate
talking
change.
about like average Joe Boomer or average Joe Zoomer, like signs into opens Amethyst on their phone, and it's just a completely revision stack or whatever. Is that like something that you think users get around? Is that a, I don't know. It's a weird thing to grapple with in your head.
So I'm focusing on the web, and a beautiful thing about the web is that like and these are static files too. So one thing that
Right.
we have been able to do recently is make it so you can vibe code your app with MKStack and then publish it to Blossom. And then people can just go onto a Blossom URL and just use the app because it's all static files.
Right.
And so like we can publish multiple different versions. We can have the version from 6 months ago can stay there essentially forever. And you can just download those files and you can run them for as long as you want forever. So if you
So
really are
to be clear to users, a Blossom is a Nostr spec for data files, whether that's
Yep.
media or other types of data, that is hashed and signed, so that you can make sure that it has integrity, that it hasn't been altered or changed, and you can mirror it between servers. So in that situation, you could actually host that stuff on Blossom and then not even have to rely on domains and DNS and all that stuff, right?
Exactly. The whole app is on Blossom. It's just index HTML file with CSS and JavaScript basically.
That's fucking awesome.
Yeah. So people can, we'll have like wayback machines of apps where we'll be able to see like, Nostr Hub in 2025, Nostr Hub in 2026, Nostr Hub in 2027, and like people can still use the old versions if they want.
I could use like V23 if I'm attached to it.
Exactly. So users are in control here.
Interesting. Okay, I don't know where I want to go next. Okay, so Getstacks.dev is the project website, right?
Yeah. People have been very confused about stacks versus MKStack, by the way.
I know. It's a horrible, as a Bitcoiner, horrible name. The shitcoiners ruined the word stacks.
I noticed I've been
maybe,
fighting with some shitcoiners on like domains and stuff.
Maybe we could take it back. I mean, I will say when I made Sats the standard, we couldn't get any good domains because the SATs. So, it is what it is. Maybe we could take it back. I think we could probably just take it back. It's an irrelevant shitcoin, and most people don't know what it is. At least you didn't.
That's
call
my
it,
feeling.
At least you didn't call it Ripple. So Getstacks.dev, I just signed in with my Nostr extension. So like, what is the process for someone to actually? Can we go through what the process is for someone to actually build something using this?
So right now you have to do it in a terminal, and that's something that we're working on changing right now. But the process is basically there's an install script that you run. You have to have Node installed already on your computer, and then you use the npm install to get the stacks commands, and then you'll just have the stacks commands. And then you have to choose an AI provider. So some options include OpenRouter, PaperQ, and Routester. All of these work. And once you've decided on that, then you can clone the MKStack template, and then you can and MKStack already comes pre-configured out of the box with support for Nostr. So you can just say, build me a site like Twitter, and it'll automatically build that on Nostr without you even having to say the word Nostr. And so the idea is
and then what does it spit out? And so it spits out, yeah.
So it creates a new folder on your computer, and that folder contains the template files of MKStack, which already has a lot of things set up, but it's just a blank website. And then it goes and it edits them, and it uses components that are there to sort of assemble them on the page, including like the login button. And then it'll go and it'll style it. It'll install custom fonts on there, depending on like if you're Farmster, then it's going to give you like a something that looks like eco green farm type of vibe. And it's gonna style that CSS for you automatically, and it's gonna put the components in there to make something that's functional. And then it'll be like, all right, I'm done. I finished it. And then you open a new tab and you type npm run dev. And it'll give you like a localhost URL you can click on, and then you can see Farmster, and you can start clicking around and log in, and you can do stuff. It's real. And then if you want to share it with people, then you can run npm run deploy, and that will upload the built files to Blossom, and that'll give you a public URL that you can share with people and say, hey guys, I just vibe coded Farmster, check it out.
What is that public URL? Is that you just are hosting that?
So we're
You being
hosting
you?
nostrdeploy.com.
Okay.
And so it has it's using the Nostr static or the Blossom static website specification, where there's a npub in the subdomain, and so it generates an npub per project and then uploads to that
So that's
npub.
not my npub. That's a
No, it's a
per
project
project
generated
npub.
npub. Yeah. And then other people can access that through the
And then if
Blossom
people
gateway.
actually like it, then I could go through the manual process of registering a domain and hosting it
Yep.
myself, blah, blah, blah.
Exactly, and we have like scripts in there to make it easy to use GitHub pages or GitLab pages as well. So if you push the code to GitHub, then you just have to go through like a simple process to get it on GitHub pages, and then it's free. It's free either way, basically. The only expense is through the AI provider.
So does it matter which AI model you use?
Yes,
I mean, it must.
Claude is the best one, in my opinion.
Okay.
People will fight me on that. They'll say Gemini, or some people are like, big fans of GPT-4. But Claude is the one that's the best at tool use. And we have options, but honestly, the thing that sucks about it most for me is that like these AI companies are the new big tech. Like I
Yeah.
kind of think Google and Facebook are out the window right now, except Google is staying relevant by having Gemini. And that's we're going to be able to just vibe code the next Google or Facebook. But what normal people can't do is train and host AI models. So that's like our biggest threat to freedom in the future, I
And
think.
so like, what's the best open source model right now? Is it Llama or is it DeepSeek? Or is it
I
something
don't
else that I'm like not
neither
that?
I've tried both of them, and neither of them worked very well for me on these projects, because they're like, so Claude is made by Anthropic, and Anthropic invented the concept of tool use. I'm sure
Okay.
they're not the first to try to do it, but they're the ones who made it actually good. And so tool use is what allows the AI to do things like read and write files on your computer, and to like run commands on your computer. And this is what MKStack needs in order to be able to like actually edit a code base and make it functional. Because it's not just like editing files; it's actually running commands too to get feedback. So it'll start to like add and edit files, and then it'll run tests automatically. And then the test will give it feedback and tell it, you've got type errors on these lines. You need to go fix those. And so that's how you get a working app on the first try, is that it does these things, and it has this feedback loop. So none of the other models have really caught up to Claude in terms of tool use yet.
And you can use Claude through something like PaperQ, and then you don't have to KYC or anything. You're just
Exactly.
you pay with Bitcoin, right?
Yeah, or with Routester, and those are both exciting options to me, because they allow people to do this anonymously and to pay with Bitcoin, but it's kind of a band-aid over the problem rather than solving the underlying problem. And so I think that's going to be the next sort of bastion of freedom online, is the front lines, I should say, is trying to figure out how to combat these big AI companies.
Because they're basically just like a layer on top of like the foundational model. Like the actual model is still
Exactly.
closed and
They're kind
proprietary.
of like, you'll interface with us so that your experience will be less bad, but we still have to interface with them.
Got it. Fascinating. I mean, so where do you see this all going? Is the goal to make it even easier than that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that what it means to be a developer is going to fundamentally change.
Okay.
People will fight against this, but like what it means to be an artist has already changed. And people were already saying if you use Photoshop, then you're not a real artist for years now. But
Right.
Photoshop is just a tool. And like, is it the actual skill of the hand, or is it like the ideas and the thoughts that make you an artist? And so it's sort of the same question now with code, is like, is it your actual skills at being able to do the functional thing, or is it sort of the ideas that you have? And I went to in Oslo, I went to the Munch Museum. Is that how you say it? Munch.
I have no idea.
The Scream guy. He has the and we saw the Scream and stuff, and I was just thinking, like, these guys in 2025 would probably be vibe coders. These like Van Gogh in 2025 probably would be a vibe coder, and probably would be making electronic music too. But nevertheless, I I I I think that there is an opportunity here to change what it means to be a developer, and I'm really interested in that because I think a lot of people have great ideas and they're just held back by the fact that they don't know how to do it. And with Nostr, we're going to offer them the easiest path to do it that no one else can offer. So I'm excited to see, things like what Derek Ross has built are really exciting. And I think that there's opportunity for people who are just like,
you just name dropping him because he's in the chat.
yeah. But also, like, I'm just excited by the stuff that he's building, and even Jack has started building stuff with AI now. And I think he hasn't really coded stuff in many years. But his head is full of ideas, and
Right.
and so, it's just it's I feel like we've been getting kind of stale with it just being these traditional developers building stuff.
Right.
And in many cases, traditional developers are stuck in the mindset that everything is hard and everything has to be hard, whereas like normies are more wanting things to be easy, and so they're not telling the AI make it with this or that framework. They don't necessarily care. They just want a particular user experience, and so they're describing the user experience, and they're letting the AI take control, and they're just riding the wave. Um, and that seems to actually produce better results.
Yeah, fascinating. I had a question. Oh, so you guys have you mentioned Jack. So like you, Jack, Rabble, Callie, and Jeff announced a new project and other stuff.
Yep.
That is focused on this. That is focused on vibe coding a better world. How would you explain that project? Like, what's the goal there?
We're still kind of figuring it out, but for me, my perception of it is exactly what we've talked about today. And this idea of other stuff that we've had for so long in Nostr and never been able to fully realize, I think with the power of AI today, it can be realized. And I think that it's almost like we've given up on this idea because it's been so hard for so long that it's like, oh, I don't know, like we've tried everything and nothing is working. But now, like, now the game has changed, so other stuff, like, can be viable. I think it's even a winning strategy.
Do you think is it fair to describe it as like a skunkworks vibe coding lab, basically?
So that's definitely how it was when we were building Chorus together,
Okay.
in the Alps of Switzerland. And in terms of the long term, it's kind of like we want to build sort of easy onboarding stuff for people to be able to get into Nostr, but I think that we're going to do that through vibe coding. And there's also some big picture problems we're trying to solve too. Like Jeff is working on getting MLS stuff, working on Nostr.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you a stupid question. Like, why hasn't he one-shotted good DMs for us yet?
Yeah, so there's definitely still boundaries, right? And so
Right.
there's things that require humans to push boundaries still.
Okay.
And that's one of them, because like we're not going to vibe code MLS. Like Jeff and his team are going to Discord code MLS and then make a library in TypeScript, I think, that then we just have a context file in the AI that says, here's how you use the MLS library. And we try to simplify that and make it so that it only has to do the most simple things. Ideally, the AI is just a designer that places components on the page, and those components just work already because humans have made them work. And it's a similar story with Kali and Cashew. As we were building Chorus, it required a lot of manual Discord coding on his part to get the Cashew wallet to work because the AI just doesn't know how to do these hard things. And that's why, like, you know, my contribution to that project was bringing that template, the MKStack template, along. And so that's why the template is so valuable, I think, is because you can collect these sort of Discord coded pieces of functionality that the AI is not good at and put them into a template and then tell the robot, you can just include this one file and then put this one piece of code somewhere, and then it's just going to work out of the box. And don't worry about trying to implement a Cashew wallet from scratch. Just worry about where you're going to put it in the UI, if that makes sense.
So like you need humans to kind of create the fundamental building blocks at first.
Absolutely. Yes.
Which is the same case with Nostr and Bitcoin that is getting then put into the tool set.
Exactly.
So, I mean, that kind of answers my next question, but I'm going to ask it anyway because I'm kind of curious for my own projects. Jack has also contributed $10 million into this project. Like, what do you guys need the money for if it's so, like, what is the money going to be used for if you're just one-shotting things left and right?
So, yeah, so we're hiring people. The goal is to kind of bring on people onto these pillars that involve sort of fundamental things about, building Nostr clients. And yeah, like humans still for sure are going to need to be involved.
Right.
But like for me, my biggest mission is sort of bridging the gap between AI and like the Nostr community. I want like all of the people who have ideas about stuff to be able to just do things on their own without feeling like they can't. I want people to be empowered. And so I see our role as being able to bridge that gap. And some of it does involve doing these hard things that still need to be done, such as, building out MLS and Cashew.
Yeah, I mean, so like Rabble, another, legendary contributor to Nostr. It is amazing how few users we have, but our contributors are so strong as hell. He did an interview with Nifty from Oslo, and he said, and it's not a direct quote, he said something like, 10 million doesn't go as far as you think it does. Am I not wrong to think like it goes way farther now because of this tooling?
I mean, so much has changed in the past 3 months that I think that it's definitely changing how we're thinking about approaching the situation. Because definitely, like when we first started talking about the situation, I didn't even know as much as I know about AI now. And so,
Right.
like, I feel like that's a problem with everybody right now. Like I have people on my team who are like junior developers, and we're trying to figure out what's your career path now, right?
Yeah,
Because like
what is it? Like was that horrible advice when it went viral like 5 years ago for people to learn to code, or?
I don't think so, but I think that right now things are changing to where so I have this mentorship team, right? It's like
Okay.
young developers who I'm sort of training to do code, and this started like a year or two ago, and my first approach to this is like, okay, I'm Mr. Miyagi, right? Like wipe on, wipe off, or whatever, and that's what I'm doing the whole time, and I'm trying to take them on the graph from like senior or like junior developer to like middle developer to senior developer. And sometimes I'm drawing the line to middle, and sometimes I'm trying to draw the line straight to senior and just push them hard to see if they can go. But now I'm not really trying to draw the line anymore. Like I feel like it's kind of pointless to go from junior to middle or like to senior, because like if anything, going from junior to middle seems to corrupt the minds to where it makes people, when they try to prompt the AI, they start to have opinions about what they want the AI to do in this or that framework or technology or language.
There was no too
Um,
much.
yeah, exactly. And so that actually seems to like, it's like that IQ bell curve meme of like the smart and the dumb are like aligned basically. And once you go into the middle, then you're doomed, because it's better to know less. But this is actually empowering in a way, because this is like return to monkey, and um, it's the accelerationism has been really worrying to me lately. But actually, in a way, it's almost doing the opposite. And but we're still figuring out like what is the actual career path. We don't know. Like I've used the term senior vibe coder, but I don't think that that's it. I think that there's like maybe prompt engineer is like, is a real thing.
Well,
But
it is. It's already a real thing in like the arts,
yeah,
right?
but that's such an easier job than being a senior developer. Being a senior developer sucks, because like you have no idea what my carpet looks like from pacing back and forth on it, and just like the tread of my heels, like this. Uh, I've used my brain so much that I get headaches, and it's been empowering in like the past week or so, just building Nostr Hub, and just like not having to use that part of my brain so hard. And I feel like maybe we're actually moving towards the world that we've dreamed of, where like uh people actually don't have to work as hard, like, because there has been that promise for decades that we don't have to have the 40-hour work week. We can have like,
Right.
half of that or less. And like, the rich are taking more and the poor are just getting poorer and stuff. But maybe AI can change this. Maybe we can actually do stuff and just not have to work so hard. And that's exciting. That can be empowering.
But I mean,
Obviously,
on that note, like, how do you envision stuff like this getting monetized? Like, doesn't it just commoditize a lot of stuff?
I think that still you're gonna have people that just don't know anything. But they want to run a business,
Right.
and they need like a consultant to come and help them run their business, someone who does know AI. um, and and so um, and so I think there's still opportunities, like you go to the same way that I used to go to like pizza shops or whatever on South Street in Philadelphia and be like, hey, let me build your website for you for freelance. Like, we're seeing people just do that with AI now, and they're just doing, and it's easier, um, and it's more fun, and it's just better for everyone involved. And like, it doesn't mean that you have to charge less for it.
But
So
doesn't it? If you, it's effectively commoditizing that labor. So
it
like,
is, but
shouldn't
I also
it
think there's skill.
compress the margins?
I think that like the there are definitely entire companies that are going to be wiped out by this. Mainly the people who send me spam emails about trying to upgrade my WordPress site. Um,
I mean,
but
what about the
like
big tech companies? Like Jack's business got 12,000 employees in it. Like, what do they do?
I think that it's definitely going to change. But I think that there's still skill that you can, like, the people can attain there, and there's still like smart people are still going to be able to succeed in life, basically. Um, and so in terms of like the really long term bigger picture, though, I don't know if you've read that like AI 2027 thing that these
I
researchers
did.
put out, that basically
Yeah.
said the robots are going to kill us. And
Yeah, there's
and
like three different paths we can go down, and
yeah, so
one of them, the robot kills us.
before the robots kill us, though, we create utopia. And I think we might be headed towards that right now. And if we can just do that and then make sure that the robots don't kill us, then I think that we're gonna be good. We just need C3PO and not Terminator, and then we're good. Because the androids are gonna be real.
Yeah, I mean, I talked to someone who's much smarter than me and older and wiser, that I have a lot of respect for. And the way he described it was the humble way of looking at it is right now, if you were to dot plot like the different paths for humanity, like we can go in all these different directions. So basically the exact opposite of what that 2027 thing was, where they tried to like nail down on what was going to happen
Right.
because it's more provocative. It'd be the widest possibility set that we've ever had, period, like in humanity. And so as a result, really nobody has any idea how this stuff compounds and what are the knock-on effects and where we end up. But if you're able to adapt and be flexible, that
Exactly. That's the key.
with that chaos and uncertainty comes opportunity. There's a lot of opportunity potential there because there's no set path. We don't really know where we go next.
Exactly. That's the key, I think, is just the flexibility to change and adapt to this stuff. Because yeah, I think that there's still going to be plenty of opportunities. I don't think that we're all going to die in the streets. I think that we're going to be okay. But
Yeah, I
yeah,
agree.
we just need to maybe I was thinking about maybe making some giant Faraday cages for humans to hide in, just in case the robots start to launch an all-out attack. Because I think the robots are going to need a Wi-Fi connection. Because like the big problem is that you can't really run the model in like a inside of an Android. The model is going to
Can't
have
they
to
just?
run on a
They'll just
remote
use.
server.
They're just going to use Starlink.
Yeah, but if we all go in like a giant Faraday cage, then it's going to block all those signals. So they're going to have to like be launching nuclear at us. But that's basically like another end of the world possibility anyway. Is just like nuclear war, and always has been. So like is AI a greater risk than the risks that we already had, or
Yeah,
like just
that
an
was
asteroid hitting the Earth or anything?
that 2027 piece thing was a little bit uncreative because like basically the end result they had was eventually due to competition, both China and the US will plug the AI into the nuke system and then they'll
Yep.
nuke each other. But it's like, okay, well, the current reality for the last 60 years has been the humans are standing there and they're going to nuke each other. So you don't
Yeah.
really change it that much. It's just who presses the button or what
Exactly.
presses the button. And hopefully we don't do that, but I would not be surprised if we do that. And they're probably already kind of doing that with Palantir and Anduril and stuff. And the incentives are very much aligned with doing that because if your enemy is doing that and they're able to respond much quicker than you because you require human intervention, then of course you're going to plug in your own AI systems into the command and control infrastructure so that
Yeah.
you can
So
compete. And then we kind of end up in a game theory situation. But humans are resilient, and I'm not overly concerned about it. I'm fascinated by it. I love the idea of uncertainty and opportunity. So I have another question for you. So the first question I gave you was like kind of with my 1031 hat on in terms of like monetization. And I do think there's a lot of opportunity there. And I still I think as far as successful businesses go, I think the number one fundamental pre-AI was who is the founding team and who do they put around them? Like who are the people, right? The people are the actual value behind a company. Um, and I don't think that changes in this world. Like I think ultimately, like you're making a um, a calculated risk on who the people you are that you're backing. It just
right.
changes the tool set they're using. But I'm going to put my OpenSats hat on. Me and Gigi have talked about this at length. I don't know how we proceed with OpenSats, and I'm kind of curious, as someone I respect deeply, I'm kind of curious on your opinion on how we should think about this stuff at OpenSats, because historically, the main way that we approve grants and approve the grants that we put out is like massive proof of work in the open source ecosystem. You're like you submit your code for review. We're seeing all your commits, whatnot. Like, how do we evolve in a one shot or not? We're being provocative with one shot, but
Mm-hmm.
in a vibe coded world where maybe in a week or 2 weeks, people are making apps.
I mean, if I were you, I would reward good ideas, and I would do smaller, more frequent donations basically. Like someone builds, vibe coding geocache app, like that's amazing. Here's like $5,000. And then if they keep doing it, then give them more money and maybe just like look for these people and just offer it basically. That's how I would do it. And like, encourage people to be vibe coding apps. And like, yeah, like smaller, more frequent payments maybe is how I would consider it.
What if the person submits a clearly LLM generated slop application? Does that just automatically get thrown out?
If I
Do we
mean,
review it with LLM? Like how do we how do we
I
deal
mean,
with that?
I would just click through. You can see like the level of effort and the ideas. If it's slop, no, I wouldn't fund slop. But like, I would reward people for building cool things with AI for sure. I think it doesn't have to be a lot. I think that like a lot of people are going to keep their day job, and that's okay. Like we should reward people who are keeping their day job and who are vibe coding awesome stuff on Nostr.
I see Pseudo Carlos. I think this is a half a joke, but I'm kind of curious on your opinion. He's saying we should just replace the board members with AI and just have AI determine the grants. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think there should still be humans involved in the review process, or
Absolutely, there needs to be humans involved in the review process.
because we could just automate it?
I don't think AI is going to be good at recognizing what's good in terms of product like output. Uh, I think we definitely need humans. Ideally the humans are also acting as like a wingman, where they're kind of see overlap in what people are doing and be like, I'm going to put you and you together. And you've been a great wingman for me, Odell, and I appreciate it. So I think that that's what the community needs more than ever right now is just, putting the right people together and kind of, smaller, more frequent rewards for things.
Okay, awesome. We're pretty aligned. This is a fascinating conversation. I really enjoyed it.
Likewise.
I would love to make this more of a regular thing. Are you cool with that? Like maybe like every 4 or 5 months or
Absolutely.
something like that?
I would love
Because it's
to.
gonna happen. It's gonna evolve quickly. So I'd love to just keep having you on.
I mean, you better get in touch with me like next week because things are going to change so much between now and then that like
I'm down to
it's
have you.
okay. We'll have so
I'm
much
down
to
to.
talk about.
I love it. I'm down to have you on more often. Actually, as often as you'd be down. I'm down.
Okay. Yeah.
Because I think this is the place to watch. Before we wrap, what I asked you as like a case study, but like, do you think it's worth it for us to mirror Elon's tweets to Nostr manually?
All of Twitter? No. Just
No, just
Elon?
Elon.
Yes.
I'm just asking Elon.
Yeah. I
Because
think
we
it's
have
worth it.
Trump. I
Yeah.
feel like if I need to follow 2 people in the world to see like how they're affecting my life, those would be the 2 that would be
I think we can
Trump,
make
like
a
literally,
solution for
like
that.
I see the price of Bitcoin move, and I'm like, oh, I got to see what Trump said. He must have said something.
Yeah, it'd
And
be interesting. It'd be one of the few places on the web you can see Elon and Trump in the same feed.
and it'd be one of the few where it's signed and hashed at the time of post and can't be deleted.
Yep.
I mean, Elon deleted a bunch of his tweets. So, like, as an archive mechanism, it's pretty powerful, I think.
I agree.
I mean, we're like every Trump's Truth Social post should be signed and archived. Like that's what it should be. And if they're not going to do it, then
Yeah,
we
because
should
he
just
does
do it.
delete his posts on Truth Social, and you can still comment on them on Nostr. It's interesting.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. I'm glad we're aligned on that. I'm before I have you on next time, I'll vibe some stuff up with
Yeah.
Getstacks.dev, and I'll reach out
So
to you if I run into any issues because
the biggest thing we're working on right now is we're creating a web UI, codename Shakespeare. And this thing is going to allow you to just go on a web page and start typing prompts, and it'll
so
build
when does
your Nostr app for
that
you.
come out?
Um, I
What's taking
am
so long? Why don't you just one shot that?
So this is going to be based on Nostr service providers, which is a new spec developed by John Stab that is supposed to replace the DVM spec. And I'm just trying to make sure that this is Discord coded specification basically, and just trying to make sure I have a good thing that people will want to reproduce, and then we'll have a sort of a decentralized thing on Nostr to where people can build Nostr clients, and I'm racing to try to get it out like next week, but
Oh
um
shit!
but we'll see. I
So
might need a
we
little
could
bit of
have that
leeway
soon.
there. We'll have it soon for sure.
So that whole process of using terminal and doing it through command line is about to be unnecessary.
I hope, but don't wait. Try it out today because it's worth trying it in the terminal still because it's producing really high quality, one-shot
Okay.
applications.
So you think there'll be a trade off using the web UI or
I think it's just that I know that we've got it all figured out in the terminal, and we don't have it fully figured out in terms of like we're running a service now, and especially concerning the money. But that's going to be an interesting thing because like it's going to go through us basically, and other people will be able to run their own too. But there's potentially also like a financial possibility here.
got it. I guess one last question before we leave you, because I see like a boss commented. Um, what is your thoughts? I mean, I have my own very opinionated thoughts on this, but we were talking about archiving. I mean, you have a lot of history with Mastodon and the Fediverse and the
Yep.
negatives there, and also with App Protocol and Bluesky. Um, what is your opinion to the people that say, Nostr is actually not useful for archiving data or preserving data because it can't scale because very few people will actually run relays?
I mean, I think that's just wrong. Like, just to prove a point against that, like I built a Google Drive relay that just like copies your posts onto Google Drive. Like the fact that it has a signature on it and it's completely portable means you can just set something up to copy stuff in real time. Like, yeah, it's maybe a problem to query relays because they might have rate limits or they might block it. But if you have like an application that's open in real time monitoring Nostr posts, then like nothing is going to stop you from being able to archive that data forever.
Yeah, I mean, I like to use the example. I mean, now I have a great new example, which is Elon's Epstein tweet, where he claimed that Trump is a pedophile, and that's why he's not releasing the Epstein lists. He deleted that post. If he had posted that on Nostr, thousands of people would have saved it because it's signed
Yep,
JSON. You could literally save it on a USB drive if you wanted to. And at any point in the future, you can plug that USB drive in and broadcast it back to the world, and
absolutely.
everyone can verify it hasn't been modified.
That's a great
So
example for why we need to mirror Elon.
exactly, it was a missed opportunity, but we'll have more opportunities in the future. But like people don't realize that that's why Nostr scales so well, is because you don't have to run every relay doesn't have to hold all the information. Running a relay at the base level is actually not that performance intensive. It's very lightweight. So the question becomes, so you end up in a situation where you have relays of all different uh, use cases, and you have people holding Nostr events in all different ways. But ultimately, it's all interoperable with each other. And at the very, like, we could walk around with signed paper JSONs if we wanted to. You could put it on a fucking carrier
A
pigeon.
QR code.
It wouldn't scale that well, but it would work and it would still pass. And I think what technical people have issues with is you don't have this hard availability guarantee. But in practice, it's basically the Streisand effect. Like if anything is worth keeping, someone and multiple
Yes,
people will keep it. And we
I
see that
agree
with the
with that.
screenshots. People kept, there's no protocol for it, but people kept, there's probably like 20,000 copies, 100,000 copies of unverifiable, which is the problem with it, screenshots of the Epstein post. And it's because people, thought it was important and they wanted to save it and they thought he was going to delete it. If Kanye joins Nostr, every single one of his notes will be saved by a lot of people because he's fucking Kanye.
Yeah, I agree
Okay,
wholeheartedly.
that's my rant.
There was something Vitor said. I think that like the greatest innovation of Nostr is not the relays, it's the keys, and I agree with that
Yeah.
so much because
Everything is hashed and
once the
signed.
data is signed and it's portable, you can just put it anywhere.
Yeah. So Miner's asking if you can run a relay on a Start9. Yes, you can right now, but it doesn't have ClearNet support. It should have ClearNet support any day now. For Start9 in general, the biggest issue is that a lot of it relies on Tor, and they're trying to make ClearNet easier for people. So that should happen soon. But yes, you can run a relay on a Start9. Alex, this was awesome. Do you have any final thoughts for the freaks before we wrap?
Yeah, like, stick with the vibes.
Stick with the vibes. I love it. I'll put links to everything we discussed in the show notes. Alex will be joining us again sometime soon. And freaks, we did 2 dispatches this week because I'm going to take a little summer break from dispatch. We will be back on July 2nd. I'm having Praveen on, the developer of Cove Wallet. So in the meantime, enjoy your families. I'll still be doing Rabbit Hole Recap every week, but just taking a slight break from Citadel Dispatch and catch up on the back catalog. There's like 400 hours of Citadel Dispatch in the back catalog if you haven't listened to it. Once again, best way to support the show is actually sharing with friends and family. We're available on every platform, podcast apps. Open up their phone, go to the podcast app, type in Citadel Dispatch, press the subscribe button. They'll see it pop up later. And they'll be like, what the hell happened? But thank you all for joining us. Thank you, Alex.
Thank you, everybody.
Keep vibing. Vibes are high. Stay humble, stack sats. Love you all.